What's up, freaks? TJ
And Ian.
here at the Freakopolis Geekery, and today we're asking the question:
What would Wonder Woman look like as a 5th edition, 5th level D&D character?
we're also giving you the answer to that. We've created Wonder Woman in Roll20 as a 5th edition, 5th level D&D character using these.
Key attributes. These are the features that we felt we had to nail in order for it to feel like you're playing Wonder Woman in this D&D character. So, the first of those features, pretty straightforward. Her combat ability and strength.
Yeah, she's known for getting into the fray of things, being really acrobatic, being quite strong. She's really good at pretty much every level of fighting.
Yeah. And then next up we have foreign nobility, which we kind of made sure to wedge in there. She is the princess of Themyscira, this hidden Amazonian island. And in that position of power comes a lot of the struggle of her life. So.
And of course, we kind of twisted that to D&D, but I think we nailed it pretty well. You can let us know.
And then finally, her very, very acutely featured Lasso of Truth. You know what it does, you've seen her use it before, and we'll get into that inside of the Wonder Woman character sheet. Boom!
Right there. All right, so taking a look at this, we had some disagreements. We went back and forth on some stuff, but I think we landed on a pretty solid representation. Remember, this is a 5th level character. We used the standard array listed in the player's handbook, and pretty much everything in here, with the exception of one particular item, comes from the player's handbook.
Indeed. So, keep that in mind when you think about how we balance this. Of course, we all know Wonder Woman is incredibly powerful. This is a 5th level Wonder Woman, so...
Yeah, and I think it matches the flavor and tone and style of her without being, the perfect Wonder Woman.
And I do believe that one way or another, this is a cool D&D build.
Absolutely, yeah, I think it's really cool. All right, so we'll start off with obviously Wonder Woman, her class and level.
And her class that we have chose is the College of Swords, a Bard level 4, and dipping into Fighter, multiclassing for Fighter level 1.
So, I went into this building of this character with the thought that it was going to be a Paladin.
Yes.
But Paladin gets Divine Sense, and I don't know, just some stuff that's like really against the unholy, and it didn't seem to quite fit the theme of her. She is this like beacon of hope, but not to that degree or in that sense.
Yeah, and she is divinely connected in some ways with the Greek pantheon, but not so directly that we felt like it was integral to the power of her character.
So, without making a monk or a fighter, I found College of Swords in Xanathar's Guide to Everything. I thought that was a pretty solid direction ahead. Has some cool class abilities that we get to dip into.
Absolutely. And as we all know, Wonder Woman's sword is, and her sword play is a key part of her abilities. Next up, we have her background, and she is a noble.
Makes sense. She's the princess of Themyscira, and that's easy enough to integrate in from the player's handbook.
No doubt. We'll get into the real meat of that once we go into her personality bonds and ideals and whatnot. Next, we have her race, which we chose to be High Elf after much deliberation.
We went back and forth on this a lot.
Yeah, we even threw out Half-Orc.
Yeah, I thought Half-Orc for the relentless endurance, drop to 1 hit point, stay alive.
The savage attacks and stuff, yeah.
But, look at her. She's clearly not a Half-Orc.
No, we settled on that.
Yeah, but Elven gives some of that foreignness to it, and High Elf is just kind of otherworldly and, like, kind of a cut above humanity on the whole.
Yeah, it's supposed to be kind of a paragon type of character.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then, speaking of paragons, her alignment is lawful good. That makes sense, I think. She's a superhero.
Yeah, she's as much a Girl Scout as Superman is a Boy Scout.
Absolutely.
So we'll go into background stuff now. This is all stemming from Noble. These are taken right from the tables in the player's handbook. So they're not perfectly attuned to Wonder Woman, but I think we did a pretty good job. The flaw, you'll see we have a caveat at the end.
Yeah, we try to make them make sense, but we do pull them straight from those tables. So, her personality trait is, despite my noble birth, I do not place myself above other folk. We all have the same blood. Yeah, she's constantly defending the common man. That's her calling in life.
And she literally has different blood, the Amazonian blood, than pretty much everybody on Earth. But the way she acts, her personality comes out through equalizing those things and standing up for humanity on the whole.
Absolutely. Next up, her ideal is obligation. It is my duty to protect and care for the people beneath me. Beneath me, like we just established. She doesn't really believe in that. But as a superhero, elevated on the Justice League and whatnot, she has to care for the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, the bonds. The common folk must see me as the hero of my people. She's sort of a diplomat as much of a hero. So she comes to our portion of the world and represents Amazon and Themyscira as Wonder Woman as a hero.
Right. And then finally, her flaw, which we did a bit of a bending for, but it works. I hide a truly scandalous secret that could ruin my family forever. And you decided, intelligently,
that would be like the location of Themyscira. It's pretty well hidden from the world of man. If anybody were to find it out, it puts her family at risk, and she guards that pretty closely.
That's like an integral part of their society, is keeping their home island hidden. And so that is a scandalous secret indeed. And that will bring us away from her personality stuff and over to her attributes, which had just as much deliberation as anything else.
We weren't sure whether to sort of min-max her and create a really strong or dexterous Wonder Woman, or to sort of even the playing field for pretty much everything. And we landed on the latter.
Yep.
Which was not easy to do using the standard array. But we got there.
And we feel like we have a pretty good field of attributes going on here. And most importantly, no weaknesses. Because that's what we ended up thinking was, she doesn't really have any particular weaknesses. It's not like she's dim-witted or senseless or ugly. She's pretty much well-rounded in all regards.
Right.
So that's how we ended up deciding that her attributes would be very well-balanced. And her strength, one of our key components, is sitting at a 15 and a +2 modifier.
It's not awesome, but if you were to continue playing her up, you could
bump that a bit. Yeah,
reach into that a little more. Dexterity is at a 14 with a +2.
Also very even. Yeah, she's fast, she's strong, and she's tough with a constitution of a 14 and a +2.
Then we get into her dump stats. She doesn't really have any dump stats, but we had to make some concessions given we were planning on multiclassing. Fighter requires a 13 in Dex or Strength, and Bard requires a 13 in Charisma. So we knew we had to, make some concessions somewhere, and that was in Intelligence and Wisdom, both at a 10 post level 4.
Yes, this is where we invested our attribute points at level 4 with that bump. However, notably, due to her investing in Bard, skills involving intelligence and wisdom are not left behind. She's pretty good at them. She just doesn't focus in on those attributes in particular.
So, and then finally, a 14 charisma, making really any stat she has a bonus in, a +2.
Yep.
So, like we said, very evenly statted, but very heroic, I think.
No doubt, yeah. There's no reason you couldn't take her on an adventure.
Yeah, she's a cut above the common man in a sort of attribute sense.
Now let's move on over to her saving throws. She's got a +2 in strength, and with her proficiency bonus of +3 at 5th level, a +5 in dexterity, meaning that she's rather agile.
Yeah, she should be able to avoid most AoE effects for the most part.
A +2 in constitution, pretty tough. +0 in intelligence and wisdom, which is, you can't really ask for much more.
And finally, a +5 in charisma. Not a ton of... there are some charisma saving throws, so she should be able to avoid most...
charms and stuff, yeah.
Things. Although...
her elvish nature, which we'll get into.
Take care of that, yes. So finally, moving on to skills... She gets Jack of all trades for being a bard, so she's going to have a bonus in everything. She gets half proficiency rounded down.
She has at least a +1 in any skill she throws.
But things that she is either proficient or expert in, she has some pretty solid bonuses.
Yeah, let's look at those in particular. Otherwise, you can assume she's got at least a +1. A +5 in acrobatics.
Yeah, she moves around the battlefield deftly and quickly.
Yep. A +8 in athletics. That is one of her expertise that we very quickly were able to assign.
Yeah, it kind of makes up for that only +2 in strength to be able to lift heavy things and run far and fast.
+8 is heroic.
Jump far, yeah. So pretty solid bonus to those skill checks.
A +3 in history. This comes more from her noble background, but it's not like she didn't spend time studying in Themyscira.
Yeah, she's a art restorer in the recent movies, so... that comes into play a little bit in the history.
A +6 in insight, her other expert ability, her other expert skill. This is due to her ability to read people, which she kind of becomes this arbiter of justice in a way. And in order to dispel justice correctly, she needs to know who's in the right and who's in the wrong. That comes from an expertise in insight.
+3 in perception. Not huge, but if you're making a D&D character, you kind of want proficiency in perception.
Yeah.
So it seemed natural.
And a +5 in persuasion. This also kind of ties into that diplomat.
Yeah, diplomat, force of personality, sort of otherworldly foreign nobility that we were talking about is present there in persuasion.
Next, we'll move on over to her class abilities.
And racial abilities.
So we'll start off from the top at dark vision.
60 feet of dark vision.
She sees dim light as bright light and dark light as dim light within 60 feet. That's from being an elf. Keen senses.
She gets proficiency in perception,
We've gone over it.
Nice dip in there.
Fey ancestry.
Advantage versus being charmed, and magic cannot put Wonder Woman to sleep.
Which is always fun to throw in your DM's face.
Yeah, so some more resilience to some magic effects, as we were talking about earlier, is never a bad thing for a heroic paragon of justice.
Mm-hmm. Trance, which is an elf's general ability to meditate for 4 hours instead of sleeping for 8 hours a night, allows her to get her long rests in a little bit more quickly. I mean, sure, she's an Amazonian.
Not included here, so those are her racial traits. She also got a bonus
language, yeah.
We took Amazonian, just as sort of a hat tip to the source material.
And then being a high elf,
choose anything. Being a high elf, you also get
various weapon proficiencies.
True.
Short swords, long bows, and short bows are all available for any high elf to make use of.
And you get a cantrip.
Yes,
of your
you
choice.
also get a wizard cantrip of your choice.
With the spellcasting ability of intelligence.
So we picked a utility cantrip.
Yes, exactly.
So,
moving on to
her bardic abilities, and the first up is her bardic spellcasting, which, as implied, allows her to cast bard spells.
Next up, Bardic Inspiration, the keystone ability of bards. As a bonus action, target one creature within 60 feet of you that you can hear. They gain 1d6 inspiration die that can be used on ability checks, attack rolls, or saving throws. Can be used a number of times equal to charisma modifier per short rest.
So that allows her to throw out some d6s of support 2 times per... is that long or short rest? Per short rest.
Yeah.
So she gets them back rather quickly.
Plus, she, as a College of Sword Bard, as you'll see, has some more flexibility with those. Lets you use those to some different ability than most bards.
Yeah, I have a feeling she's really going to be dumping her inspiration into her own maneuvers than giving them to allies. That'll bring us, though, to Jack of Trades, which we've talked about to a degree already. Add half your proficiency bonus rounded down, which at this level is +1, to all ability checks that don't already include your proficiency bonus. So that's why she's pretty darn good at everything.
At least a +1.
Song of Rest.
Regain an extra 1d6 HP during short rest. This counts for the party, I believe.
Yes, yeah, this is more of just a general party support thing. If your DM is a fan of short rests, it makes your bard really cool during them. Not exactly a Wonder Woman feature, but a cool bard feature.
Yeah. Finally, expertise. Obviously, we took athletics and insight, as we said.
And then the College of Swords subclass, which, we invested in on that, and that gave us the dueling fighting style. When you are wielding, a melee weapon in one hand and no other weapon, gain +2 to damage with that weapon. This is her really cutting in with that sword. That's what she does.
Yeah, and as you saw, she is, often found. I mean, she'll certainly use her fists, but she's often found sword and shield. So that plays into that quite nicely.
Here is the big one for College of Swords: Blade Flourish.
So, yeah, this is what we're talking about that flexibility with the Bardic Inspiration. When making a weapon attack action, your walking speed increases by 10 feet until the end of your turn.
Which gives you some additional mobility if you take out your target or use the mobile flourish option that we'll get into in a moment.
When you hit after taking that attack action, you may choose
Defensive Flourish. So you use that inspiration die, gain plus the inspiration die's roll to your damage, and add that number to your AC.
Until the start of your next turn.
Yes, which could be really amazing for Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I mean, she can get +6 AC.
Though even +2 is nothing to sneeze at,
No, absolutely. You can also choose
her Slashing Flourish, which is a bit of kind of a melee AoE, where you use the Bardic Inspiration, you get the extra inspiration die as damage on the attack, and you can use that damage against another creature within 5 feet of your target, I believe.
That's right. I feel like this is probably the weakest of the three, but lets you deal out a little more damage and sort of...
If you're fighting a big group of weak enemies, the kobolds, the goblins come running up on you in a pack, it'll let you cleave away more than one per round, so that's useful.
And finally, Mobile Flourish.
Use a Bardic Inspiration, gain the Inspiration die to your damage, and then you can also push your target 5 feet plus the Inspiration die roll away from you.
So up to 11 feet.
At this level, but that may increase.
Yeah.
And then you can use your reaction to move anywhere within 5 feet away from the target. So this is a push and follow-up maneuver.
Would that trigger attack of opportunity, or because you're pushing them? I mean, I would think you could use your reactions to take an attack of opportunity.
As well? Well,
Yeah, I would think
in
so.
place of moving up? Yeah, that might be something to discuss with your DM.
Or
maybe
if you had an ally next to you, you could that would definitely...
Yeah, that would definitely trigger it for them, yeah.
So yeah, wording on that's not super clear, but I think that's a really cool ability.
Yeah, pushes are always fun, and to get it from your College of Swords bard is a bit unexpected, but definitely a heroic Wonder Woman maneuver.
Yeah, it lets her get in some of those, that swordplay flourish and become a little more capable in combat.
Mm-hmm. Next up, we delved into Fighter.
One level of fighter.
And in doing so, we got ourselves Second Wind, a familiar ability on this show.
Once per short or long rest, as a bonus action, you may regain 1d10 plus fighter level HP.
So just a bit of sustain. She's got to be tough. And her defensive fighting style. So she gets 2 fighting styles, in fact,
cool.
which is, really powerful. And choosing defense, she gets +1 AC while wearing armor. Also take into account that by dipping into fighter, she gains proficiency with simple weapons, martial weapons, light armor, medium armor, and shields. So
No heavy armor. They nixed that.
yeah, you got to be careful.
But we don't feel she wears heavy armor anyways. So that is just fine.
Next up, should we do spells?
I think so.
Okay.
As a bard, she gets some spells. Not, traditionally Wonder Woman's sort of MO, but it comes with the class, and I think we found some cool utility type stuff that works pretty well with her.
So, first off is Blade Ward. This is not actually coming from her bard list. This is the one she's grabbing by being a high elf and taking 1 cantrip from the wizard list. Blade Ward allows you to be tough against standard physical attacks.
Friends. You make friends with anybody.
Dim-witted creatures, and then by the time the spell ends, they usually know they've been charmed. It can make for a mess, but, why not?
Message. I don't think it would be out of the realm of possibility for her to send a message to Themyscira or somebody, Batman or whatever. So
Yeah, some distance.
Yeah, and so that seemed appropriate.
True Strike allows you to line up one big whap.
Exactly.
Then her first level spells,
Bane.
which is a general kind of debuff against 3 targets.
Featherfall.
Very superhero ability.
Yeah, that was just it. It's not, specifically Wonder Woman, but she shouldn't be taking falling damage, really, so Featherfall seemed appropriate. Heroism.
Very specific in some ways. Allows you to build up some extra buffs on yourself and become practically immune to being feared. However, generally not seen too much, but from Wonder Woman, we thought it made perfect sense.
Longstrider, once again, super heroic, sort of should be able to cover long distance in a matter of moments.
Thunderwave, come crashing down and smash everything in front of you in a huge blast of energy. Wonder Woman does that, so we give it to her.
Calm emotions lets her save somebody from under the rubble and have them tell her what happened or whatever.
Yep.
Just sort of another heroic type thing.
And Zone of Truth, where your enemies can be essentially incapacitated in this zone, and your interrogation will go well if they don't resist the magics.
Which, we have another answer to that. It's not the only way we covered Lasso of Truth.
Admittedly, her second level spells there, both Calm Emotions and Zone of Truth, turn her into your party's interrogator.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're really truly meant for pulling information out of people.
Yeah, I think that's a theme between a lot of her spells that we chose, either pulling information or buffing herself up, mostly.
And so, her combat abilities are all underscored through her spells, essentially.
She ended up with 20 points in armor class.
Yes, a monster armor class of 20, and this comes from Scale Mail, which she got her proficiency both from College of Swords and from Fighter, as well as a shield. So that brings her Scale Mail plus her Dex brings her to a 16. The shield gives her another +2 for 18. And then we gave her Bracers of Defense +1, bringing her to a 19, a very well-known minor magic item. And her defense fighting style brings her to a 20.
Which is nothing to sneeze at.
No, if you were to use those inspiration dice on extra AC as well, imagine turning and saying, well, you have to hit a 26. Rather unlikely.
It's going to make her tough. Initiative kind of low, +3.
That's fine.
Yeah. Speed of 30. It's pretty standard, but she has some ways to play with that and make her way across the battlefield with some of that flourish work.
A max HP of 52.
A little lower than I would have liked to have had, given that she is, one of the Trinity in DC. But that's where we ended up, given that...
Tried to balance everything out.
Yeah, exactly.
Then, let's take a look finally at her general equipment that we decided to give her. Amongst it is a magical short sword. Her short sword is not going to be not magical. I mean,
yeah, no, absolutely. So that's a +1 short sword, doing standard damage, but you can play around with it a little bit using those flourishes again.
She's throwing at a +6 to attack with 1d6 +5 damage, I believe, on the end there. And not the most impressive damage, however, pretty darn good. And then the Lasso of Truth, which is a custom magic item that we made.
It has an attack.
It does. How do I get in there?
So it's actually listed down in the equipment.
Right.
So the Lasso of Truth is at... here, I got it here. Roll to hit versus target's AC. So you basically make a normal melee attack roll. I would assume using Dex probably as the attacking ability. On hit, target makes a DC 13 Charisma saving throw. So that is to try and resist the effects of the lasso. On fail, the target becomes charmed to Wonder Woman and deals the lasso deals 1d4 radiant damage upon lying. So a bit of a complicated magic ability.
Yeah, we put a lot into this one in thinking on how it works, the mechanics of the lasso, but we know that she has to actually, get it around people, so she has to make an attack against their armor. Then it has been resisted before, so there has to be a saving throw attached to it, and we figured that was probably charisma, since it has to do with general willpower. And then it burns people when they lie, so we had to make sure that it threw in a little bit of radiant damage if someone were to tell a lie while being lassoed.
Yeah, and that plays a little looser than a lot of magic items or descriptions in D&D, but if you and your party know each other well, I'm sure you can work something out.
And ultimately, that D4 damage isn't going to make too much of a difference in combat, so it's a very cool RP magic item. I wouldn't expect someone to pull it out too much while...
To kill something?
Yeah, it's just not... It doesn't actually deal damage on its own. It's like, start telling lies!
Right. And then finally, a shield and scale mail.
Her scale mail armor, yes.
So let's take a look at our key attributes.
Indeed.
And see how we feel we did. Combat and strength.
She is definitely proficient in combat with a plethora of abilities and maneuvers she can make. And though her strength attribute isn't crazy high, her expertise in athletics lends to a character that can pull some super heroic feats of strength.
Yeah, and I feel like we're missing a key attribute here that would be something like no weaknesses or something like that.
Yeah, essentially. So, well-rounded.
Yes, exactly. So I think we did that quite well. I would have loved to have seen her with some more, dishing out higher damage or more hit points, but... we've put some limits on ourselves, and I think we played to them pretty well.
Foreign nobility. This is everything in her background leans towards this.
Yeah, between the race of being an elf, they're always a little mystical, foreign to the D&D world on the whole, and the noble background, I think we checked off both of those things.
No doubt. And then, of course, the Lasso of Truth, which we've just gone over, a cool custom magic item that we feel is relatively balanced for a 5th edition, 5th level Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun making that magic item. So.
Yeah.
Not too bad. I'd say 2.5, I think, out of 3.
Yeah, it was a really tough one.
It was very tough, especially when you have somebody who, is so good at everything. It can be hard to make a D&D character using the standard array.
But as I had mentioned earlier, one way or another, this is a cool build. Fighter with a bit of College of Swords can make for a very cool adventurer.
Yeah, I would play her. So... that is our Wonder Woman as a D&D 5th edition, 5th level character. If you have any that you would like to see created, have us build out for you, put them in the comments below. Check out some of our other builds. We did Wolverine just a couple
recently,
weeks ago. Yeah, and I think that was a super fun build as well. So give that a look. And until next time.
Catch you later, guys.